All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Hello, mothers everywhere, and mothers in memory everywhere. You're just coming down from your big day. It was a special Mother's Day. Maybe one of the best concocted holidays that we have. You know, I mean, I get it. We have Valentine's Day. We have President's Day. We have all of these days that we've sort of created, you know, Independence Day, etc. I kind of feel Mother's Day is the leader of the pack. I mean, of all of the entities, of all of the creatures, of all of the things that need celebrating and a little bit of gratefulness, I really feel moms fall into that category. So for those of us who have moms, and for those of us who remember our moms fondly, I hope you had a wonderful day. Kim is a mom, actually, and she's a
Kim, how are you?
mom that I look up to because she really manages her kids, it seems, very well. And I hope you had a happy Mother's Day, Kim.
It was a good one, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't have to rescue any of your kids from the surf this Mother's Day?
No rescues, no. Very quiet,
right.
Yeah.
Well, it is great to have both Kim and Tony on board. Tony
Thanks,
has
Tony.
managed a poll, I think, which is about the Qatari gift to Donald Trump. And if you want to weigh in on that, you can. They call it a gift because to call it a bribe, they polled it and it didn't, you know, in the focus groups, bribe did not play as well as gift. So they're going with gift, everyone, and that's the word from the Qataris. It's a gift. And of course, it was, it raised a few eyebrows, and we will discuss it today. In fact, we'll discuss it in just a few minutes. 747 lies to justify more Qatar bribery, says Harry Magnan, with a 747 contribution in the super chat. Thank you, sir. Nice to see you, Harry. You sent me an email or two or three over the weekend. There is an email address, and by the way, people are using it to contribute to the show because we're in the middle of Spring Ka-Ching. It's a fundraising drive for the spring, and if you don't like being part of the super chat and the super sticker because you know that YouTube takes some of the money, I don't have a problem with YouTube taking some of the money. They make it easy for you to support the show, and for that, I'm ready to pay a premium. But many of you have said, I don't want to contribute to Patreon or PayPal because you can, or the YouTube, Super 60, etc. Where can I just send a check? So for those who want that, it's the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com, the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com, and you can help support the show. I'll send you back an address where you can send that's our actual website, themarkthompsonshow.com, and there are live links. You just saw it there. Support via PayPal, support via Patreon, and that's another way you can support us. It is our Spring Ka-Ching. Thank you, everybody who has ridden to our rescue. I can't thank you enough. What's a check, asks Inlay. Yeah, well, I mean, it's true. I wish I had a Venmo thing set up or whatever. A lot of shows do have that. Maybe we can do that in the months ahead. I would say if Tony doesn't do it, it probably won't happen because none of us have the technical know-how to make that happen. So if Tony isn't up, then you know.
Okay, if all that's on my list.
Did you add all our new contributors to our credits for the end of the show?
Tomorrow.
Okay,
I
very
got
good.
home a little late last night.
Okay.
Thanks, Tony.
All right. What did you do for Mother's Day, Tony? Please tell us.
Well, traffic's way too heavy to get to my mom's house on Mother's Day weekend, and restaurants are. So it was last weekend I did Mother's Day with her.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
We just do it the week before. It's like she's like, yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
My God, I paid for dinner. Damn. No.
Well, you know, that's something that you'll deal with eventually someday, Kim. I did the same thing with my mom. You know, she's back in Washington, D.C.
Sure.
And she's 95. It was her birthday yesterday.
Oh, Oh, birthday and Mother's Day.
Yeah, instead of being there for the actual day, I was there the week before. There were a lot of reasons for that, but she was cool with it, and I'm sure you'll be cool with it whenever your kids. Yeah, but cheers, everyone! I am drinking This is the Coachella Valley coffee. You can have this riquissimo coffee, just like I'm drinking, and you can do it at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. You can order as much as you want. In fact, I'll tell you, I think the real values are like the 2-pound bag, even a 5-pound bag, whatever, but you can get 10% off, and you will be delighted. Not only with the coffee, they have tea, they have spices, they have everything. So check them out, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. But do use Mark T at checkout for 10% off. And I'll tell you, this coffee today, and this coffee today was... This coffee today was made by Courtney, and it is dark as night, and I love it.
What?
I love it, just strong, dark. I want it to be able to stand up and walk over to me. I want it to be that strong.
Wow.
And today it's really deliciously strong. So before I get started, I've got a special guest for you, a surprise guest. Anthony Davis from the Midas Touch Network is going to roll in here in a minute, and that's going to be cool. Yeah,
we haven't seen him for a while. That's
I know, I kind of missed him. And also, of course, Gary Dietrich on Monday, so he'll be by. Mark, I'd like to tell you that I enjoy your show, but we always talk about the fact that people pay you a compliment, then they say, I love your show, listen all the time, but maybe you should do more of this, or maybe you should do that. Mark, I'd like to tell you that I enjoy your show, but I can't find words adequate enough to express how truly great you are. Wow, David S.
That's the butt.
We need more David S. in this world. Yeah. I also see an RJ Dunn super chat, $20 super chat, 20 to celebrate my beautiful daughter marrying the love of her life this past Saturday. Wow.
Congratulations.
That is super cool. Wow.
Girl, you just woo.
Yeah. What an exciting event in a family's world. Really, really cool. Yeah. Well, thank you for including us in the celebration, and we reflect your jubilance and enjoy with you. That's really terrific. Best wishes to all involved. Well, I'd love to get into other stuff. I guess I can get into it with Anthony because he's just so great. So without any further delay, although we do enjoy delaying, I want to welcome my British boyfriend. We all need one, and I have one. How about it for the great Anthony Davis, everyone, from the Midas Touch Network. Oh, my goodness. Quite special. He's left his home of the UK and come here to civilize us here in the colonies. And how is it going, Anthony Davis?
Yeah. Next question.
5-Minute News is just one of the shows that Anthony Davis does. He does the weekend news. He does what's the one you do on Wednesdays? Or
Wednesdays is Uncovered with Philip Kowski.
I like
and
that.
Then, and then Sunday is the weekend show, and then
the weekend show. Right.
Every day during the week, you get a 5-minute news update, which is never 5 minutes. And people continue to complain to me, and they go, "Why is it 14 minutes long?" And I don't know about you, but I would have thought that they would be like, this is added value, like the idea that it's I'm shortchanging them somehow by making it twice
it's an
the
odd
length.
complaint.
It's a very odd complaint, but I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, all right, let's put you to work right away. I am getting, look, the suspension of habeas corpus, et cetera, we'll get into that a little bit later and even in this conversation. I don't take it seriously. I don't think it's really possible. I think that's going to be a bridge too far for them. Now, they may find a way to do it in this government because they have nothing but sort of a sycophantic, yes-infused world of people around them. But even with that, I think suspension of habeas corpus is going to be a tough climb. So I'm going to put it to the side for the moment, even though it would be normally the biggest story that would vault to the top, I should say. But I think this Qatari gift of the 747, it's more than just clickbait. It is absolutely outrageous. And a guy who has run afoul of the emoluments clause in the Constitution, prohibiting contributions from foreign governments, this guy has run afoul of those. I'm talking about Trump, through Trump 1 and now through Trump 2, doing it through the meme coin, doing it through his hotels and his resorts, etc. We've seen all the ways in which foreign governments can money him. But this is just a massive, massive chunk of payoff and bribe. And I'm going to be very curious to see if this washes down. He supposedly, by the way, and then I'll let you speak, Anthony, he supposedly has the blessing of his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, on this. So it's legal.
Well, he has the blessing of Pam Bondi on everything, doesn't he?
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
She really does not waver. There is no independence of the Department of Justice anymore. Those days are over. But of course, they project and they claim that Merrick Garland was the one that wasn't, independent, doing a proper job. Let me tell you something. If Merrick Garland wasn't independent, Trump would be in prison by now. But, he kind of tried to give the impression he wasn't siding with Democrats, I guess. And so therefore, it ended up with him just being a bit of a soft touch. And some have a theory that, the guy deep down is a conservative anyway and didn't really want to see through with any of those things. But to your question, let's go back a little bit. When Trump was president last time, he's always hated these two 747 200 series aircraft, or 100 series. They're really old 747s that are currently Air Force One. Of course, there's two of them in case, one has a problem, they have another one, but also they sometimes fly two around. One is a decoy, various things. Because he's had his own private 757 and he likes the certain level of luxury, and this plane is getting on a bit. And so what he did was, in order to kind of speed up the tender process, which never was a tender process, he always was going to give it to Boeing to recreate the new 747-800 series, which incidentally was a commercial disaster, and they don't really build anymore. They do a freighter version. But he basically said, look, I need a deal. I need a discount because I'm Donald Trump and it's the art of the deal. And so instead of doing the proper thing, which was giving Boeing the job of working with the U.S. military to build from scratch two 747-800 series to a military-grade standard for Air Force One, he found two discarded Russian 747s that were on the field because the Russian airline that Boeing built them for went bust. So he got them cheap. He got them for basically half the price. He thought that was the deal, the art of the deal. Pay cheap, pay twice, because now Boeing have to convert a passenger civilian 747 into a military-grade one. It's impossible. I mean, you can do it, but it's going to end up costing twice as much and take 10 times longer. And so that's where we're at. We're basically in a situation now where he is desperate for the new plane that he ordered, but of course he can't get it because he cheaped out in the first place and didn't let Boeing do their job. And so he loves the performative aspect of all of this. He doesn't care about whether it's up to standard. He just wants his jets. And so in the interim, he's found a workaround. Right.
Although it's not as though he's just renting this car and dropping it at the airport when his business trip is done.
That's
He's
right.
taking it with him.
He gets to keep it. But I'm less concerned about the corruptions aspect of this story because the guy is corrupt, right? That's no big surprise. And his 757 is like 30 years old, and that's ready for the scrap heap anyway. So he sees this as, when I'm not president anymore, I get this beautiful plane. So I don't have a problem with that because Trump is, that's his criminal mind. I have a problem with the fact that that national security is compromised because this plane has not been built to American military standards. This has been built for the Qataris. This is a completely different aircraft. And so what is Trump going to fly around in it as if it's a kind of interim Air Force One and it not be to the security standards that are required by the U.S. military?
That's exactly what he's going to do.
That's my concern.
No,
I don't know why I'm suddenly concerned for the health of this guy, you know?
Well, it's not even the health. I mean, you can talk about the intelligence failures of this administration already, and this would be exactly another one. So I think you're right to focus on that.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing is the Qataris, they're no friend of the United States. Their friends are in the Middle East. You know, they will say anything and do anything to do deals, of course, and they're very business oriented. But in terms of are they a trustworthy ally, who knows? And the point that I'm really making is they could give him a plane that is bugged, they could give him a plane that is tracked, they could give him a plane that is compromised, and he doesn't really care.
Yeah, I want to play a little bit of what Trump is saying about this. Tony, play a little bit of Trump remarking on this when asked a question about, you know, what is this about? Doesn't this fly in the face of ethics, et cetera? Go ahead.
Mr. President, what do you say to people who view that luxury jet as a personal gift to you? Why not leave it behind?
You're ABC fake news, right?
Why not?
Only ABC. Well, a few of you would. Let me tell you, you should be embarrassed asking that question. They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, don't give us, I want to pay you $1 billion or 400 million or whatever it is. Or I could say, thank you very much. You know, there was an old golfer named Sam Snead. Did you ever hear him? He won 82 tournaments. He was a great golfer. And he had a motto: when they give you a putt, you say, thank you very much. You pick up your ball and you walk to the next hole. A lot of people are stupid. They say, no, I insist on putting it. And then they putt it and they miss it. And their partner gets angry at them. You know what? Remember that, Sam Snead. When they give you a putt, you pick it up and you walk to the next hole and you say, thank you very much.
Respectfully, Mr. President.
Yeah, so he sees it as, look, it's a gift. Take it and move on. I see I'm not really quite as willing to walk past the ethical violation as you are. I mean, I understand and accept what you're saying and agree completely that this is an administration that is first about grift. It is the first primary directive of this administration is the grift. It's moneying themselves. They were doing it before they were even inaugurated. In fact, using the inauguration itself as a way to grift. Millions and millions and tens of millions of dollars came in from donors, from those who were trying to curry favor with the new administration. But this is a flying piece of grift. And more to your point, when you add the fact that it's not really, I mean, I guess it'll be vetted by DOD for various compromises in security, et cetera, but you're seeing it in the chat. People want me to ask you, don't you think it'll be bugged? Don't you think it will be, from an intelligence standpoint, just a huge mess?
Well, it's all of those things, but also there's only one of them. Right? He's not getting two identical planes as the specification requires for Air Force One. So he clearly is turning the presidency as was into this autocracy that he just basically operates by his own rules. And that means that, you know, that is, I would have said that the rules governing Air Force One and how the president travels are probably the most important national security thing, right? Because he's carrying the nuclear codes and all of that stuff. It's probably like at the very, very top. And that's the bit that he just wants to compromise because he prefers a certain type of leather chair and likes a certain type of interior finish because of course if it's a Middle Eastern plane, it's going to be all gold and all that lovely stuff that he really likes, you know, like Putin's palace. And so this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with somebody who cares nothing for the Constitution, cares nothing for national security, cares nothing for justice, cares nothing for civil rights, and is entirely corrupt. Everybody can see it. We better get used to it because it ain't changing anytime soon. This is where the United States has gone. And everybody who voted for him, they should have known this in advance because most of us have been shouting about it for a decade. And so, you know, why are we surprised? It's only going to get worse from here. I mean, look at the trajectory of authoritarianism from January to May. The graph goes up. That's what it does. And grabbing people off the streets, arresting the mayor of Newark. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and then that's just the beginning. I mean, they're
threatening
saying. Public officials coast to coast. Yes, of course. Just to round out the plane, and I'll give the press at least credit for this. I guess you can't let this pass without asking about it. I mean, it's a huge story. The Trump administration accepting this plane from the Qatari royal family. It'll be retrofitted and used as Air Force One during the president's second term. When pressed if she, the press secretary for the White House, believed this gift would require something in return, Leavitt said absolutely not, because they know President Trump and they know he only works with the interests of the American people in mind. Yeah, exactly which American people? Who is that? The president said that the Defense Department plans to accept the luxury jet as a gift free of charge. He said that on social media in capital letters, so it must be true. And he said the multi-million-dollar jet will be used on a temporary basis. It's a very public and transparent transaction. I love that the transparency is associated with the fact that there's no way to hide it. You know what I mean? And these same things are happening with his meme coin and the digital currencies that are being traded. Hundreds of millions of dollars being made from trading, both buying his meme coins and also trading them on his platform, that World Liberty platform.
Yeah, and none of it is traceable. This is the other thing about buying crypto, is that it's complete. All the transactions are untraceable, and Trump is making a profit on every transaction, as well as the amount. There's also a transaction fee every time. So he and his family have become enriched to the tune of billions of dollars since he took the presidency. But, you know, he's not taking his salary. So really, we should be very thankful for the fact that he's the only president to not have taken a salary. And thank you, Mr. T. Appreciate that.
It's important that we now move to what's happening with this immigration mess.
Yeah.
So people are scooped up. They are moved into detention facilities. What's now happening in increasing numbers is people are scooped up. They're moved to an initial detention facility. Then they're moved to a different one. Then they're moved to a third one, a fourth one, even a fifth one. They're moved all over the country like whack-a-mole. Lawyers have to try to figure out where their clients are in order to try to get them the due process that we talk about.
Yeah.
So we get to habeas corpus and the fact that all people, not just American citizens, need their moment before a judge for due process. Might that be suspended? I mean, clearly it's been ignored in the case of the initial group that was sent to El Salvador. They were claiming to have deported all of these Venezuelan gang members. Clearly that's not true. It's not true in 3 of them that we know, and probably another 73 beyond that, and maybe more. Who knows? But not saying they're good guys, not saying they shouldn't be deported, but just saying they do get the due process in the immigration courts, which move very rapidly. You know this, Anthony Davis. It moves almost like traffic court. Can we run a little bit of Stephen Miller for Anthony? And this is Stephen Miller responding to the question about suspending habeas corpus, and might that be something that the administration is looking into? And he says, yes, it is. Yeah, so this is the question.
Well, the Constitution is clear, and that, of course, is the supreme law of the land, that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion. So I would say that's an option we're actively looking at. Look, a lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not. At the end of the day, Congress passed a body of law known as the Immigration and Nationality Act, which stripped Article III courts, that's the judicial branch, of jurisdiction over immigration cases. So Congress actually passed, it's called jurisdiction stripping legislation. It passed a number of laws that say that the Article III courts aren't even allowed to be involved in immigration cases. Many of you probably don't know this. I'll give you a good example. Are you familiar with the term temporary protected status, or TPS, right? So by statute, the courts are stripped of jurisdiction from overruling a presidential determination or a secretarial determination on TPS when the Secretary of Homeland Security makes that determination. So when Secretary Noem terminated TPS for the illegals that Biden flew into the country, when courts stepped in, they were violating explicit language that Congress had enacted, saying they have no jurisdiction. So it's not just the courts aren't just at war with the executive branch, the courts are at war, these radical rogue judges, with the legislative branch as well too. So all of that will inform the choices the president ultimately makes, yes.
Mr. Miller.
So basically what he's tipping is the fact that they'll declare some kind of invasion threat again, that's going to be the flank that they're going to pursue.
Well, apparently we're already under attack by Venezuelan gangs, and that is why we are in this current situation where they're making use of the Alien Enemies Act, and I mean, it's all gibberish. The whole thing is gibberish. You know, this guy is advising the president. He is the senior kind of policy guy. So when the president speaks, it's because Stephen Miller has whispered in his ear. And Stephen Miller clearly is a white supremacist and a xenophobe and somebody who has a completely different view of the world to most of the world. And that is where the president is getting his advice. And you remember the other day when they said to Trump, you know, what about making Stephen Miller your national security advisor? And he was like, oh, well, that would be a demotion, which suggested to me that Stephen Miller really is the guy who's kind of running all the policy for this country. Trump is over it. He doesn't want to really be involved. He has delegated to some very dangerous people like Russell Vogt and, you know, people that are embedded in Project 2025. So none of this comes as a surprise to any of us who talked about Project 2025 3 or 4 years ago, who recognized what their plan was. We just have to acknowledge that this is the way it is now. And I'm done with being shocked and surprised. They will do away with habeas corpus. And as far as I can understand it, unless the Supreme Court, I don't know, has some kind of bypass, you are looking at a very extreme Supreme Court that will side with Trump on pretty much everything. Amy Coney Barrett is the linchpin here because she tends to, I don't know what's happening, some kind of Catholic guilt or something that's getting to her, but she seems to be kind of leaning in with the dissenting liberals on the court a couple of times. But, you know, I just feel like, you know, this is what we warned of. This is the dystopian future that is now our present, and it's not going to change anytime soon. So, of course, immigrants are not going to get due process. And the only way to fight it is in the courts, one case at a time. And, you know, liberal legal cases are winning. Trump is losing in court, but they're trying to run the clock. And so, you know, the more stuff they can stuff into initially 100 days and now beyond is just, again, it's just making it so difficult to wear people down, where people, this is exactly what Hitler did, you know, this is, people get worn down by the dictatorial nature of the regime, and eventually they succumb.
Well, it's interesting that, you know, when you say, of course, this is happening, and of course that is happening, I say, of course, also because we all know what hymnal they're singing from, but I do think it has to be fought at every single turn. I don't think you can just kind of stipulate to the fact like, yeah, they're going to get rid of habeas corpus, and yeah, he's
but I'm not being
corrupt.
defeatist. Yeah. I'm being
right.
realistic. And
okay.
this is the problem. I don't think people in this country have really heard this type of talk before. You know, there's always got, you know, movies in America get pre-screened to audiences, and they never like it when people die at the end, the lead characters. So they tend to then go back and reshoot the ending of the movie so that it's a happy ending and everyone's happy. Well, I'm terribly sorry. But this is not how it works in the real world. You can't just reshoot the end of this particular sequence. And so there is this, you know, exceptionalism baked into American culture, and it's nobody's fault. But, you know, the U.S. has been very lucky in its short lifespan that it has not been invaded. It's not had any of this, you know, the kind of trials and tribulations that European nations have been through. And that's why the European Union recognizes the threat of fascism and is dealing with it and is doing something about it and is making strides. But here in the US, it's still like it could never happen here, to coin a phrase.
That's absolutely right.
And that's what we're dealing with.
I think that's such a clean summary. I mean, I've said we've just gotten fat and happy. We've gotten complacent, and this fascistic authoritarian creep was occurring this entire time. Then, of course, the divisive nature of our politics only helped to enable it. But just to round out the situation with the immigration and kind of news of immigration, I believe I don't know how to say her last name, the Tufts University doctoral student, is it Rumesia Ozturk,
Remaisa Öztürk. Yeah.
Remaisa Öztürk. She was released from federal custody. This happened Friday after we got off the air. And the judge in Vermont ordered the Trump administration to free her. She was with her lawyer. She spoke before the media. And she was moved to an immigration detention center in Louisiana. We had that story on the show, some weeks ago, which in itself was a kind of cruelty. And there's a trauma that she'll live with, having been innocently pursuing her life as a researcher and then scooped up on the street by these, jackbooted thugs who work for the government now.
And we're seeing this everywhere. It started with Mahmoud Khalil, and, he was of Columbia University, and that seemed pretty shocking. Notice there's always a video camera around to record this stuff. We saw one over the weekend with a mother being ripped from her child in the street and all the neighbors piling in and screaming at the ICE agents. It was the most horrifying and devastating thing to see, and this is going on all the time. And this is our reality now. A lot of these ICE agents are also white supremacists. A lot of law enforcement are white supremacists. It's no coincidence that black people were getting shot by police at the side of the road without a trial. And so, we have to be realistic about what's going on here. This is the result of decades of effort behind the scenes by this MAGA Republican movement. Call it what you will. Call it Project 2025. Call it the former Ku Klux Klan. I don't know who they are. But they all seem to have the same view of America, and that is that America, and I'm going to quote Stephen Miller from the RNC, America is for Americans and Americans only.
Yeah, and then
that is what they want.
Who and what is an American that's the whole game, right, is the interpretive thing.
I mean, did you hear Trump describing this new pilot that he met on Air Force One in the flight deck? He said, he looked at him and he was like, wow, you're perfect. You're like Tom Cruise, but better looking. You're just, and I quote him, a perfect specimen. He was white. He had pearly white teeth. He had a good head of hair. He was tall and strong and handsome. And Trump was describing this and salivating, right? And I was thinking, this is weird, but Trump is obsessed with eugenics and genes and bloodlines, and that is what they want.
It's funny, we have a eugenics professor coming on, I think within the next 10 days or so. It's a really intriguing conversation about just that. I wouldn't be a responsible host if I didn't quickly touch on the China tariffs. I'm going to touch on them with Gary Dietrich coming up in a moment also, but I wanted to get these on-again, off-again tariffs. I wanted to get your thought on it, because on some level, we knew that the tariffs weren't going to continue, and essentially an embargo on Chinese goods. You'd have to drop them, reduce them substantially. Well, that's what's happened. They've been all effectively dropped, it would seem.
Well, it was just a waste of 6 weeks, wasn't it?
And tons of money. I mean, a lot of people lost a lot of money.
Wiped off of the world markets, yeah.
Exactly.
So this is the level of incompetence that we're dealing with. I mean, when Trump stood in the Rose Garden with that sheet of paper with those numbers on it, everybody was like, hang on a second, like, this is a bit weird. And then people were trying to work out the equation. So how did he come to that percentage? He took what they did and this, and then you take that away from that and you add that to that. And it was so random and weird. And then, people starting to realize he just doesn't really know what international trade is. He thinks that this kind of trade deficit is because we're buying more than they are, and therefore they're ripping us off. But their economy is a quarter of the size of our economy. They don't have the buying power that we have. So it's equal. He doesn't get it. Look, the interesting twist with this is that Project 2025 believes in free trade. There's nothing in that 900-page document about tariffs. Tariffs comes from Trump and things from like 30 years ago, like Reagan and this whole idea of taking back control, to coin a Brexit phrase. And, he's just living in the past. He doesn't understand how the world works. And so he basically just cost the world $1 trillion through his incompetence and his use of gibberish in place of English. And we're all having to pay the price for it. I mean, 401ks are a perfect example. So, I am not surprised that we're back where we are and claiming that we're going to have a reset with China. China hasn't uttered a word. They haven't spoken. They've literally sat tight-lipped and watched Trump do this to himself. It's embarrassing. It's given world leaders an education in how to handle Trump, which is basically say nothing. Putin's doing it too. Just wait and watch him hang himself.
It is true. I mean, it is true. First, the Chinese negotiators did meet in Geneva with the American negotiators, Bessent and the rest. But it's also true that on the Russia thing, it appears that we're coming around to the Russia side again. I mean, even more aggressively now. And you're right. There's been no high-profile negotiation that has led to that. It's a high-profile turn that Trump is making on his own, or the administration is making on his own.
But it shows that Project 2025 have sway in the Trump regime. And he went out on his own and did this, a little bit like Gulf of America and, all these kind of, no more paper straws, plastic straws about. Like, that's the stuff that Trump is into. It's like marketing and branding. And so they let him do tariffs, and then he screwed it up. And so Project 2025, they believe in free trade. And that's not because they're liberal. It's because that's how you make the most money.
Right. Find Anthony Davis on the Midas Touch Network. Oh my God, Anthony came here for civilization and found Trump. He must be disappointed, says Harry Magnan. Yeah, well, it's a long haul.
It's still a beautiful country.
It really is.
And the majority of the people here are incredible, and they get it. And, Trump did not win with this huge mandate. Let's just remember this. So only 70-odd million people voted for him. Well, there's 320 million people in this country, so you tell me how that's a majority.
Yeah. Well, that'll be a lot of people disappointed based on those numbers, because this isn't stopping anytime soon. We're just underway. Yeah. We can find you on the Midas Touch Network. Again, tell me exactly when. It's
5-Minute News daily on the 5-Minute News YouTube channel. You find me on Substack as well, The Anthony Davis.
Look at you,
Blue Sky, The Anthony Davis. That's me. And then on Wednesdays, Uncovered on the Midas Touch Network. Sundays, The Weekend Show on the Midas Touch
Victor says MTN is their best show. Uncovered, the best show on the Midas Touch Network. How about that? Anthony Davis, thank you. I'll see you later this week as we go on a wild, you're grabbing your wife and I'm grabbing my de facto wife and we're going on vacation. Isn't that right?
Apparently so.
Oh, my God. Well, I never take a vacation. I'll be working every day, but you, I'm sure, will be vacating. So I'm looking forward.
I'll be working every day.
Oh, well, okay. So we're both working every day.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis, everyone. Bye, Anthony. Thank you, sir. I love our time together.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, he's great. He's just great. He's I love his takes. I love that work on the Midas Touch Network, and it is great now to welcome someone else that I'll get to in just a second. I want to make sure I'm not neglecting anything I need to do. We're in the middle of spring ka-ching. Before I get to Gary Dietrich, let me just thank you, all of you who have participated. Mike Hall, $50 contribution into the show. Wow, that is the ka-ching in my spring.
Big shout out.
A big shout out to you. One of the things I loathe about independent media is having to ask for support from the audience. I hate doing it, but the audience has been great and is coming to support us, and I appreciate that. Mike, that was super generous, and I very much appreciate it. Thank you. RJ Dunn with 20 more. RJ Dunn says, and 20 more to celebrate my beautiful mother turning 82 today. Wow, that's pretty great. 82, gosh. Doesn't even seem old to me anymore.
What?
Jim Slayton with a $9.99. Back to the old grind. Thank you, Jim, for the $10. Appreciate the super chat. Spencer Jaffe with a $10 super chat. And a big shout out to Jim and Spencer and Franco. Will Qatar airliner include the Saudi Qatar pilot? I would be very surprised if that would happen. I would think they would insist on an American pilot. But nothing would surprise me at this point. Chaplain Fred with a $5 super chat saying, hi, Mark, Kim, Albert. So I guess Project 2025 got sidelined. Well, the main efforts from this administration, I think, conform with Project 2025. But as Anthony was noting, they like to, go off script a little bit, and the ad libs from Donald Trump sometimes frustrate, I'm sure, the Project 2025 people. We'll talk more about that with Gary Dietrich. All right. Thank you, everybody, for participating in our Spring Kaching and our fundraiser. And again, Patreon, PayPal. And of course, if you want to send us a check, just send me a note and I'll send you the address. It's the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com is our email. So we continue.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Love talking to this guy. He always can point me back toward political magnetic north. He is found on the iHeartRadio network across the CBS television stations. And on Mondays, he's right here with us. Gary Dietrich, everybody. Hey, Gary.
Hello, Mark. Good to be with you, my friend. And I'm glad you're going to get a little vacay time of some kind. But I don't know, the Qatar jet, I'm just wondering, will they allow Big Macs and filet of fishes to be served on it?
Oh, yeah. That's right. There's a whole Muslim thing going on. You know, that's right. The Qatari gift to the Trump administration is right now, anyway, leapfrogging a lot of other stories in Washington, just because it seems like such an obvious violation of every even generous interpretation of the Emoluments Clause, which prohibits foreign governments from making donations like this without congressional approval. Of course, there was no congressional approval here. He got the high five from Pam Bondi, and he moved on and accepted this, at least in principle. Give me a thought on this and where this is going.
Well, you know, is this a huge deal? To some people, it will be. I've honestly, to many in Washington, even people frustrated in the Democratic Party, Mark, this is just going to be seen as another distraction from what they believe are the issues that they really have got to focus on, right? Things like potential large cuts to Medicaid, things like that. Amy Klobuchar said this over the weekend, said, look, you know, we got to quit focusing on the bright, shiny objects that aren't the main story. So I think this is sort of a mixed bag, even again for the Democrats in Congress. But, you know, Trump still, hey, why would I turn down a $400 million free jet? And of course, the irony of the whole thing is that Boeing just can't seem to get its act together and get those 2 new Air Force Ones off the ground. This would all be a moot point if they'd been able to keep to that time. Now people go back and, well, was there too many change orders from Trump? Who knows? You know, but anyway, we may have another new, they're calling it temporary Air Force One. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you make such a good point, and you're so sharp to point to Klobuchar, who made that point, that these distractions of a sort take us away from some of the main plot points as, Medicare, Medicaid is undermined, and as there are huge economic issues associated with tariffs and this kind of thing. Yet the total compromise and ethical compromise that is this administration really is on display in splendiferous form with this Qatari thing. So from that standpoint, it's a reminder of, frankly, the corruption of this administration. These are my words, not yours, but that's the way I see it.
Yeah, I understand, Mark. And, look, you can bet your life on this. If this thing does actually touch down and get a coat of paint, from the Air Force One, paint store, every single tiny act between us and Qatar you can just imagine, are going to be scrutinized to the T for the remainder of this administration and beyond. So, I think right now the guys in Qatar have to be saying, well, get ready for the gigantic microscope to be on every single thing that we do from here on out, because that will be happening.
Tell me about the tariffs. So they have weekend meetings in Geneva, the Americans and the Chinese, and they essentially hit the reset button. So now it's a 90-day pause. This won't be a relief of all import fees, tariffs. Steel, aluminum, I think, is still included. They're like 50%, something like that. But everything else drops way, way down again and sort of normalizes everything, gets things back to where they were prior to this whole tariff mess beginning. Give me some thoughts on that.
Well, this is the big kahuna. I mean, the announcement last week about the, new agreement between the UK and the US, that was significant. That just sort of started the drip flowing, right? But this was the one everybody was waiting on. Was something significant going to come out of this? And it's not small, as you point out, Mark. I mean, our tariffs are supposedly the general tariffs, dropping from that whopping 145% to 35%. China dropping theirs down commensurate to, I think, 15%. From there, over 100. So this is a big deal, and mostly it's a big deal for Wall Street. Look at the stock market today, right? This is what Wall Street was waiting for. They were waiting for the other shoe to drop. Basically their question was very simple. Is the 145 nothing more than a Donald Trump negotiating ploy to get China to the table and really talk about redoing the agreement or not? And now we know the answer to that is yes. I mean, I don't think there was, and he's been kind of saying this over the last weekend. Well, 145, it may not stay there. And then he said maybe 90. I think this was nothing more than a strong arm public tactic to really try to redo the whole China trade negotiation platform. And we'll see what happens. I mean, then obviously the next 90 days are going to be the proof of it. But in the short and medium term, Wall Street's real happy about it.
Sure. I mean, Wall Street would have liked Trump to worry about making announcements about plastic straws and not touch the economy at all. It was already in pretty good shape. And it's funny, we're looking at, when you talk about getting China back to the table and work out some kind of trade agreement. I mean, there was a trade agreement in place, and who made that trade agreement with China? It was Donald Trump in 2018, I think. So the idea somehow that, the entire notion about what's happening with China has some truth to it, right? There is IP robbery going on. I mean, China is aggressive about closing us out of markets. So this is not a completely empty notion that you have to work something out with China on an ongoing basis, okay? And with AI now part of the picture, et cetera, it all makes sense. But what Trump did is just way bizarre, over the top lunacy, really. I mean, and it's not just me saying that. I mean, every economist on earth was saying it. And of course, as you've pointed out, Wall Street reflects it in what's happening in the markets. So I'll be interested to see if after 90 days, Trump just leaves it alone. You would think that might be the case, right? I mean, it's sort of like,
yeah, Mark, I think you're making a really, really important, outstanding point that people need to tune into. A lot of these negotiations are going to have nothing to do with tariffs. To be honest about it, a lot of the business people in the United States believe that the other types of things you mentioned, stealing of intellectual property, I mean, trying again to elbow the U.S. out of the way in other markets, trying to pressure other countries to not do business with the U.S. Those are the kinds of things that I think U.S. business is far more concerned about than whether it's 10 or 15% tariffs. I mean, these are the big game changers, AI, things like that. So I think you're exactly right that honestly, as fast as things are moving these days in the business world and in the intellectual property world and the technology world, 5 years, as you know, is like a century these days. So there's been a lot of water under the bridge since that last Trump-China agreement. And then I think you also, finally, Mark, you need to put it in the broader context of the clear right now escalation of superpower, moxie between China and the U.S. I mean, this is part of what Trump's talking about almost every week, right? I mean, all of a sudden over the weekend, there's a giant announcement that the U.S. Army is going to get these brand new tilt rotor airplanes that are going to replace our helicopter fleet. Why? Because they say that's totally aimed at China and the Pacific, that we've got to have machines that can be used for potential defense and assault that have to surpass the capabilities of average choppers. So I'm just saying across the board, right? I mean, the new fighter jets, this is part of a much larger picture of who's going to emerge 20, 30 years from now as the dominant superpower.
Wow. So well said. Not every economist thought, okay, thank you, Jack. Virtually every economist thought that the tariffs were were a bad idea. It's interesting. You can get so caught up in the China thing, and boy, when you lay it out like that, and you talk about what's potential theaters of war and around Taiwan, et cetera, and how we're maybe altering our fighting force and altering our hardware to accommodate that, you can lose sight of the fact that there is a huge vulnerability that has now been established in America with the cybersecurity being underfunded now. I mean, a bunch of cybersecurity experts have been dismissed from the government as part of the DOGE decapitation of so many agencies in government. We've lost a lot in that area. I'm wondering if you're thinking, it seems so obvious you need to rebuild in that area. I mean, in a way, that's the real ongoing theater of war in every country. Why wouldn't you rebuild those cybersecurity posts and try to make us robust in that area?
I think that's going to happen, Mark. Frankly, I think when you talk about DOGE, to be really honest about it, it's in many senses. I think if you look at the numbers now, and let's check them again in 4 years, I think there's going to be a lot of rehires into some of these jobs, but they're not going to be quote unquote Biden folks, right? I mean, I think you could almost see it more as a purge than it is a cutback. Does that make any sense? It's like reframing. It's what's happening in the Pentagon. The Pentagon budget is not being cut. It's being increased, but a lot of the deck chairs and substantial ones are being moved around and reframed in some significant ways. That the Trump people believe is absolutely imperative. For example, shipbuilding. Who cares about shipbuilding? We're not taking on the British Navy like we did 150 years ago. It's aimed at one place. We all know where that is. This is clear competition with China. That's what the shipbuilding is about, on the commercial fleets as well as the military fleets. So make no mistake about it. I think we really have to look at this in the big picture sometimes and say, oh, that cybersecurity thing's not going away, but it's going to be even more trained on places like China, Russia, Iran, etc.
I want to ask you about California here in the last second or two, but before I do, these other things that are happening, well, they're happening in the military. Since we're talking about the military, the elimination of trans military members. There's also there was also an administration, I don't want to say edict, but message to somehow incentivize women having more kids. There seems to be like this old school kind of view of the world that may crescendo with the trans issue, but also seems to include stuff that's associated with race and gender and just old school visions of those things. I wonder if you can give me a second on that.
Well, I would just say, when it comes to the military, Hegseth has continued to use this phrase over time. We are about one thing, lethality, right? So in their view, Mark, if it doesn't serve that purpose directly, if it's about anything related to equality or equal opportunity, whatever, that is not part of their calculus. I mean, they've made that clear. People can vociferously disagree with that, but that's the bottom line.
All right, now to California. One of the things that's happened in California is we've talked about, and you follow Sacramento quite closely, which is where the state capital is, for those who are tuning in from all around. The idea somehow that California might on some level pick up the slack of medical research that has been discontinued at NIH and those official agencies. That bill, at least preliminarily, got through the Sacramento vote. So I'm wondering now, I mean, it has still another vote to come, I think, and you know all about how that works. But I wonder if you can speak to the realities, because there are a lot of academic institutions in California that depend or depended on that federal money, and we're doing critical research in cancer and Alzheimer's and all these other things, and they may get back to it if the state funds it.
Well, the state has funded in the past different kinds of medical efforts completely separate and apart from the federal government. But yet, understand that, for example, right around the state capitol, and with a couple of miles of it, there's a new biomedical campus going up right next to the new Golden One Center. University of California is going to invest heavily in that. I mean, there are already, Mark, a lot of public-private partnerships that are escalating in California dramatically. There's been this sense for some time that there is a growing desire to basically replicate Silicon Valley and turn it into biomedical valley, both in a certain segment of the Bay Areas. San Francisco has a portion of this near the new Chase Center, et cetera. But even in the Central Valley, that there's going to be major league, even international investments that California would like to be, and right now is kind of taking a leadership role and being the center of, regardless of what the federal government does in the short term.
It's interesting because California is running out of money, right? I mean, there's a little bit of a problem and a shortfall when it comes to funds, and this would be quite a capital commitment, wouldn't it?
Well, it could happen. Some of this could be put on the ballot. Some of it may just be in this form, Mark, of, land grants or, tax rebates or, tax credits, those kinds of things that are direct expenditures out of the general fund.
Now, last question, I'll double back, but it ties into what we've just finished speaking about. I'll double back to the Trump administration and the announcement. There are a lot of announcements. Trump is a big one for announcements and pronouncements. As you know, the theater of the presidency, in my view, is really where he's happiest. And he announced and signed an executive order asking pharmaceutical companies to voluntarily bring their pricing in some conformity with the rest of the world. We pay more for pharmaceuticals here in this country than any other place. So I think this is just that. It's performative. I mean, there was already, I'll just, in my preamble to your reply, remind everyone that there was already negotiation on the part of the government in the infrastructure package with 10 different major pharmaceutical offerings. I think one of them was for diabetes and so on. So it was already there, and Trump rescinded it. Trump rescinded the Biden era accomplishment of negotiating with these pharmaceutical companies. Now, doing the same dance as Biden, saying we pay too much here, he's saying, I want these pharmaceutical companies to bring their prices down to what they are the rest of the world. I think, first of all, they're not going to voluntarily do it. This is my opinion. But I also think it feels theatrical to me. It feels performative. I don't know if anything will happen. But again, you know where the bodies are buried. What do you think is going to happen?
I think it's both and, Mark. I think, the proposal is that we would pay on an individual basis for an individual drug, the lowest price paid by any other country for that drug. Now, it is important for people to understand that we still pay 2 to 3 times, was reported again over the weekend, what other developed countries pay, and sometimes up to 10 times what a developing nation might pay for the same drug. And I think Trump is, to me, this is sort of like 145% Chinese tariff. Is that going to happen voluntarily by these pharmaceutical companies? Of course it isn't. There's absolutely no way it isn't. But to me, it's the shot across the bow. And I can expect a follow-up. It was signed today. Bobby Kennedy was there, to receive the executive order. I think this is going to be some hard-nosed negotiations. And part of that's going to be, look, if you don't do this, and then fill in the blank after that, right? There's going to be tax penalties. There's going to be all kinds of things. But I think Trump is serious about this. This just plays into the larger thing of the U.S. is getting screwed vis-a-vis everybody else, right? Trump is like, I am not going to have my people pay 2 or 3 times what England is paying for the same drug. And so the mechanism right now, pressure everybody, pressure the other countries, pressure the major pharmaceutical companies. But those companies are huge donors, as you know, in Congress, Mark.
Thank you. That's why I think it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and that's going to be the challenge. If there's congressional approval needed for some of this, getting it past Big Pharma is going to be tough.
Well, we agree then. We agree. But we'll see. And I think it's interesting that you kind of point out, hey, this is a warning shot. I'd say it's maybe part warning shot based on what you're saying. I mean, I think you make a convincing argument for that. And also, it's part, as I say, attention getter. Like, I'm a man of the people. I'm a populist. I'm a populist president. It's all, he's trying to build that brand with that announcement. But Gary, I love our time together. I'll only miss you one Monday. So just, and then I'm back with you. So looking forward to our conversations. Always, you can find Gary Dietrich across iHeartRadio and across the CBS television stations. And on Mondays, he hangs out with us a little bit. So we love it. Thank you, pal. Appreciate it.
Of course, Mark. Talk to you soon.
Gary Dietrich, everybody. Right on. And Gary is brought to us by Bill Campbell. Good enough to sponsor Gary's segment. Bill Campbell is in Northern California, and if you're thinking of relocating to Northern California, or if you're in Northern California, thinking of moving out of Northern California, and you want a highly respected real estate professional, Bill Campbell is that guy. Reach him at RE/MAX Gold. You can call or even text him 530-448-7474. 530-448-7474. Bill Campbell, RE/MAX Gold.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at? Stay at home and get baked.
Right on, everybody. Right on. Thank you for being part of our show. Everybody who is in the chat and everybody who participates live, you can find us across social media. We have Blue Sky, we have X, we have what we don't have, what I'm not good about, but I think Kim is better with Facebook. I don't know how much you're on Facebook. But Kim, do you post when we're on the air on Facebook, or you kind of just leave Facebook alone pretty much unless it's like
there's a Mark Thompson Show Facebook discussion page where there's discussion about all the things that you've talked about and that people are posting interesting things. But we used to go live on Facebook and we haven't anymore. But I'm not really posting on Facebook.
No.
As far as when we go live, do you want me to do that?
Well, I think it would be helpful. I mean, if you care about the success of the show, I would suggest that maybe you want to do that. I don't know.
Okay.
Don't you think you want to tell people when your show is on? I think it's,
Okay. Well, we can do that.
I think it, don't you think, Tony? We should, I don't know what that means, though, in terms of us broadcasting live there. But Tony's always felt you should be everywhere. He thinks that we should blast our show on every platform.
Mm-hmm.
But he wants us to be on Rumble. But I feel like if we're on Rumble,
Twitch and
but if we're on Rumble,
Twitter,
you're going to see that chat is going to blow up with haters and and I just feel like it'll spoil the experience a little bit. So that's why I've held off on Rumble.
We can contain Rumble's chat to Rumble, and they can just have fun yelling at just yelling into the void. Cool,
Maybe
man.
I'll talk to you about that, and we'll see how that goes.
I don't care. And then what we would do, obviously, is once all the other platforms we deleted, and then we just would have just YouTube for the archive. Basically giving people the option for live.
Well, this is to be continued, so we'll talk about that. And I'm always interested in the Facebook fan page. So the discussion page to discuss stuff that's on the show. Is that what you're saying, Kim?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I went there, and I thought it was really cool. And it's not like all about the show. They have other stuff, too. And, I was pretty impressed. So what is that? That's on Facebook. It's called what?
The Mark Thompson Show fan discussion page.
All right. Very, very good. The Mark Thompson Show fan discussion page.
And that, by the way, was created and run by fans.
Very cool. I love that. Mark, maybe you should do OnlyFans, says Nellifidian. Yeah, that's good. I'll get naked for a couple of dollars. I mean, anyway, I'm looking at the chat and I get distracted. The haters are entertaining, says Jack. That'd be awesome. Imagine a bunch of Mars and Randys and Delwoods. I don't think Randy, and like the Randy I know isn't one of the, but Delwood and Mars, definitely. Now, Mars is no longer, right? We red carded Mars, but Delwood's still out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Delwood was yellow carded, but I think he's still around. I think that's right. It's tough to keep track. Kim is usually keeping track of that stuff. I'd like to get to some news from Kim. News and commentary. We did a lot on the Qatari plane. We did some stuff on habeas corpus as well, and the realities, I think, are moving against this administration being able to do anything with habeas corpus, but I wouldn't put anything past them. and then drug pricing and immigration policy generally. Covered a lot, but there's a lot more going on. So smash the like button if you would.
It with your iron rod.
Smash it like a boss, baby.
Smash
Hit it hard.
With your iron rod.
That's right. And we'll get to some Kim news, and we continue. You good with that, Kim?
Yeah, bring it.
All right. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. There is a sea of New Jerseyans. They have all gathered to see the release of the last living American hostage that is held by Hamas. Hamas released Israeli-American Edon Alexander as part of ceasefire efforts with Israel. The 21-year-old is from New Jersey, his hometown, now watching an outdoor TV to see his return to Israel and then eventually on to the United States. So he is freed today.
I think that those negotiations took place largely between the U.S. and the Hamas officials representing Hamas. I mean, I think the Israeli government was not involved in that negotiation. Am I right about that? I think that that's right, Kim.
I'm not sure, but I'm sure happy to see another
positive
hostage
resolution.
released. Absolutely. Yeah. There's an ICE detention center also in New Jersey that is turning into ground zero in the immigration battle between the Trump administration and Democrats. Friday, we reported here, the mayor of Newark was arrested outside the New Jersey facility after he and 3 Democratic House representatives tried to gain entrance. Mayor Ross Baraka and others say they will be back at that Delaney Hall detention center today to join religious leaders in protest. The mayor said he has oversight authority there, and so he's able to go in and double check and make sure what's going on and that he should not have been arrested. So it's heating up. The Dow Jones Industrial Average taking off like a rocket after China and the United States agreed to temporary tariff cuts. Dow shot up over 1,000 points at times today, while the S&P 500 grew 2.9%, NASDAQ Composite surging 4%. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent saying both countries agreed to cut reciprocal tariffs by 115% for 90 days. So a 90-day almost pause on these tariffs as negotiations continue there. As Mark mentioned earlier, Air Force One is Middle East bound. Well, we talked about a Middle East Air Force One made, but now the real Air Force One is Middle East bound for President Trump's first major international trip of his second term. He is set to, he is set to visit U.S. troops at the air base in Qatar, the largest U.S. military base in the region. He will also be in the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, where he'll get an update on the Israel-Gaza war ceasefire talks there.
Just Give Me the Truth reminds us, by the way, those Hamas guys, they live in Qatar. That's absolutely true. The top Hamas officials reside in Qatar. And so interesting. I had forgotten it as well. So thank you for that. Yeah.
More than 4 dozen Afrikaners are heading to the United States. This is a group of
wild.
49 white Afrikaners who were granted refugee status by the Trump administration. They left South Africa Sunday night. They will be arriving at Dulles International in Virginia today. President Trump signed an executive order in February granting an exception, claiming minority Afrikaners were being unfairly treated in South Africa. The group will now have a pathway to U.S. citizenship, and they'll be eligible for U.S. government benefits here as well. So
yeah, it's just odd that we're taking up for this this long ignored group, the Afrikaners. I mean, I'm sure that has nothing to do with the fact that Donald Trump's buddy is who? Elon Musk from South Africa, David Sachs from South Africa. He's surrounded by these South Africans who make the case for the Afrikaners. So they've been fast-tracked ahead of many others who await in the immigration system. In fact, many others who go to immigration check-in points, check in as is legally required, and then are picked up and deported. I mean, if ever there was a chilling effect toward being a legal, a person with awaiting full legal status and an immigrant to this country that has to check in at various immigration offices, if ever there was a chilling effect, if ever there was a brushback pitch It's the idea that when you check in, they deport you. So, I mean, this is literally happening. Meantime, as Kim says, these white South Africans, they arrive at Dulles Airport today under the Trump order. They are refugees. So we continue with that's just
seems very interesting that we are. It seems like we're deporting the brown people and we're letting in the white people. That's how it feels.
Thank you. I mean, it feels that way because that's exactly what's happening. You know, 49 white Afrikaners come here, fleeing persecution in South Africa.
No, we don't mind immigrants. We just want the right kind of immigrants. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's all happening in plain sight.
The state of New Jersey, big in the news today. Now the White House says the problems at the Newark, New Jersey airport, they fall squarely on the shoulders of the Biden administration. Today, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said the airport is using old equipment that looks like it came off the set of the movie Apollo 13. Duffy said the former TSA head Pete Buttigieg ignored the problems with the airport's telecommunication lines. Duffy saying there are some temporary software fixes in place, but he warned it'll take time to modernize the airport and flights will have to be reduced out of Newark.
So I just want to make one program note to you, and it's happening today. We have an aviation expert. In fact, he's our aviation expert guy. Patrick Weil is coming on in just about a half hour, and he'll talk about what's happening in the skies over America. How safe is it? Why are these delays happening? Will there be more? Patrick joins us in just minutes here on this show, so we will ask him all those questions. If you have any specific questions about aviation, he's the guy to ask. He'll be with us shortly.
State Farm may be in the California hot seat. California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara says he may soon be launching a formal inquiry into State Farm's company practices. The comment made during a recent Zoom meeting with hundreds of survivors of the January wildfires in Los Angeles. The survivors say the insurance company is making it nearly impossible to get claims filed or answered. State Farm says they've received more than 12,000 claims and they've paid more than $3 billion to customers so far. But Lara may be launching an investigation into why things seem to be moving slow. President Trump has a miniature statue in the Oval Office right behind the Resolute desk, portraying the moments after he survived an assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. There's the statue, and apparently it's a model for what is hoped to become a 9-foot-tall bronze statue. It's part of the Donald Trump Statue Project. It's an initiative to raise funds for a 9-foot-tall bronze sculpture. But here's the miniature. It's got the flag behind there in Butler, Pennsylvania. The security, the Secret Service agents that were on the president as he raises his hand in triumph. There you go.
Why doesn't he? I don't understand. They have to raise funds. He had hundreds of millions of dollars he made with the crypto purchase on his platform. Hundreds of millions. Okay?
Yeah, well.
And there is even now, and I'll get to this story when Kim's news is over, the bidding for a face-to-face with Donald Trump. You can bid on that, and you're even able to bid through purchase of his crypto coin. All kinds of interactions with Donald Trump himself. So in other words, hundreds of millions of dollars pouring into Trump coffers weekly, and we have to raise money for the statue. I mean, can't you just break out a little something off of the existing grift and pay for it that way?
They haven't said where they intend to put this thing up. Would it be like a Trump library statue? Would it go up near the Lincoln Memorial? Nobody knows where this thing
No
would
one's
go.
going to say no. Put it wherever you want, Donald Trump, because no one's going to say no to you, apparently.
Oh, Lord. San Francisco's Chinatown night market is getting some national recognition. USA Today ranking the event as a top night market in the nation. Organizers say between 15 and 20,000 people come out to the night market, which takes place on the second Friday of the month. The patrons can check out numerous food and drink items, enjoy a variety of Chinese-themed entertainment. Organizers say they plan to run the night market monthly for at least the next 5 months, so it gets high marks from USA Today. And lastly, just in case, Mark, I know you might be looking for a new ride coming up. I've got the one for you. There is a limited number, there are a limited number of full-sized drivable replicas of the Batman tumbler from Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy that are for sale. These are 10 replicas of the tumbler. It's a tank-like off-road vehicle available for purchase. It's been sanctioned by Warner Brothers Discovery. The tumblers cost nearly $3 million each, and they are sold exclusively online through Wayne Enterprises Experience Luxury brand. It's the first time that Tumbler has been made available for purchase. They're
literally going to build this car, the Batman Tumbler. Look at it there. Tony's got it up for you to see with those huge wheels. It was a very cool vehicle. But,
$3 million.
Can't imagine that it would. You
don't want that parked in the driveway? What's wrong with you?
I just don't know if it'll be street legal, and but maybe that's the idea. It's just a collector.
Well, if you did buy one, you would join Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow, who bought a tumbler last year. So he's got one. The NFL posting on X that he bought one. So you could, you're in good company there.
It's a baller move to get one for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the original Batman, the TV series Batmobile. That's more my vintage probably. But I don't know. The good news is it's too expensive.
It was great. I loved it.
It's too expensive for me to purchase. Yeah.
What's wrong with you? Come on.
Yeah, right.
There's a new AI tool, lastly, that will tell you how old you look biologically. Face age turns a headshot into a number that reflects a person's biological age. Based on thousands of photos, Face Age gave most cancer patients a biological age 5 years older than healthy peers. Research shows humans age at different rates based on genes, stress, exercise, and habits like smoking and drinking. Face Age promises the same results as genetic DNA tests using only a selfie.
Wow.
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
There is alcohol involved. It does age you a little bit, that alcohol. But boy, it feels good while you're aging, I got to say.
The question is, do you really want that information? I mean, if you log into Face Age, right, you're expecting it to say, oh, you look 5 years younger. And what if Face Age tells you look 10 years older? Then,
Morning.
What a disappointment. I don't want to know.
No, you're right. It's sometimes better not to know.
No, take it, stow it, Face Age. I'm not interested.
All right. It's tough enough for me to deal with the image I have to look at every day when I.
Thank you.
Right.
This report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Something I do want over and over again. The tea, phenomenal. Mark, you love the coffee. And CoachellaValleyCoffee.com offers a 10% discount for Mark Thompson Show listeners.
Oh, yes.
It is off. Mark T, no spaces. Mark T at checkout. Get your 10% off. So check around on the website, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Look at the tasting notes. See which coffee is best for you. And then if you want to order something, make sure you get that Mark T 10% off.
Yes.
And enjoy it.
Oh, yes. Enjoy. Just
take a little sip.
So I'm drinking out of my... This is we could just try ignoring it, sir. Mug, I believe, and it is. It's so good.
We could try ignoring it, sir.
Yeah, the mugs. If you didn't get one, the mugs behind me, collector's items from the first merch store. These, I believe, are quickly becoming collector's items from the second merch store. Very, very cool. And there is a new, super cool merch store coming.
Okay.
Courtney's working on it. So is the merch store still up, Tony? I didn't realize it still is. That's great. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Chit is there.
Seems like it.
Yeah, looks like it.
We got
your
stuff
Coachella
there.
Valley coffee and a Chit mug and all the rest. Oh, is it up already? Maybe it's up already.
No, this is still the original one. The last one.
The original one. Because Courtney has been working to kind of curate a new merch store for us. And so, they don't have any replicas of the Donald Trump statue in our merch store yet, Tony. That hasn't made the list of enviable items. Anyway,
sadly, I don't see that on the website now.
Sadly.
Yeah. Sadly, that's not the way it is.
Thank you, Kim.
I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Everything is going extremely well.
I come from regular stock. No context will suffice to explain the hurt and anguish caused by my words.
You, sir, are a liar.
Calling me a liar? Know what you're calling me? You are a cover-up artist and you are a liar.
Envy, wonton killing. I don't know what a wonton killing is. I'm gonna have to look that one up.
I love it when you're angry.
Good day, sir.
This is a man with anger. This is a man that has resentment towards you.
That's pure speculation.
Seriously, what the? It was great. I loved it.
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
It's fantastic.
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Your Honor, I'd like to ask for a recess.
What?
Thompson, party of four.
There's never been anything like this.
Nobody likes her.
Right on, everybody. Great to have you here. We are a live show, and we thank you, all of our Patreon and PayPal subscribers and supporters. That community sustains us. It's true. I really want to do that orgy of thanks. We kind of have it at the end of every show. We post everyone's name who is part of our Patreon and PayPal community of supporters. Every single person's name. If you've contributed at whatever level, we post your name. Tony will be actually updating the list. We do it once a month, tomorrow, I think, or tonight, I forget, in the next 24 hours. So thanks to everyone. You make every show happen, and that's why you run your name at the end of every single show. On the statue, the Trump statue, Santi M says, not enough blood, and the hands are too big. We have a very clever crew in our audience. And what else did I want before I get to
maybe we should buy one of those for Thompson Terrace. You know, we can put it up there next to all the other statues, have the Trump statue on the terrace.
I think that would
no.
I think that would kill a lot of the walkthrough and, you know, just the vibe of Thompson Terrace, which is kind of serene. I think the serenity would be lost were we to do that. But I'm glad you mentioned the statue, and I'm glad you mentioned Trump, because I do have some.
The Mark Thompson Show.
You know, I think the influence peddling and corruption associated with this administration is a huge story, and there can be a tendency to normalize it, to go, well, you know, he's just Trumping again, man. He is, like, you know, selling Teslas in the front yard, and he is taking in cash payments in the backyard. And that's just who he is, and this is a corrupt administration, etc. And then the other thing you hear is, all politicians are corrupt, and, you know, he's just taking it to another level. There's some truth to the fact that American politics is filled with money, right? There is this tremendous infusion of money into all political races virtually. So if you want to run for any office, you need money to get the word out, to get yard signs, bumper stickers, put together space in like rental halls, so you can even just put together these Q&As you want to do with the potential voters to support you. I mean, not to mention media time and, you know, digital media, et cetera. It takes a lot of money to do this stuff. So that, by definition, because you need money to get even a righteous message out, that by definition opens you to corruption, because when people give a lot of money to someone or something, they expect something in return. In this case, with Donald Trump, you take a lot of money in from Elon Musk. He's their top donor. The Republican Party and the Trump campaign people got no greater funder than Elon Musk. And what does he do? Well, there's been no greater individual private person who's been welcomed into government and has transformed government like Elon Musk did. Now, you can't tell me that there was no connection between Elon Musk's donation to Donald Trump and Elon Musk's power that was conferred to him by Donald Trump. I mean, he gave him the keys to the governmental kingdom, and he went in with all of those aspiring tech bros from 18 years of age to 26 years of age, people who knew nothing about government, and then they started chirping about how Social Security is broken and USAID is broken and this is a waste and that is a waste, completely misunderstanding some of the most fundamental aspects of how funding goes on. But the reason Musk was there is because he gave so much money to Trump. So it is with the Qataris. They don't give Trump a plane without getting some understanding. I mean, it's implicit in the gift. We will get something back. We will get access to the president and likely an agreement or at least engagement on those issues that we're concerned with. It just makes sense.
And likely an agreement that maybe is not beneficial to the United States because we got to pay up at some point, right?
Trump cares about Trump first. It certainly should be clear to you by now. Now, this is why, while he polishes his brand, which is all populist, right? I care about you. I'm up against the big machine. I don't need any money. You know, I'm doing this for the American people. While he polishes that brand and has that gleaming brand of populism to his people, we know the reality is he's trying to money himself. Okay, that's all political, and it's a kind of it's a quid pro quo. It's also a pay to play. It's patronage. You find it with the tariff deals. We've told you when Vietnam was hard hit by the tariff initially in the first week, they made a deal immediately to allow Donald Trump to build a Trump resort in Vietnam. All the impediments were gone. It's even underwritten on some level by the government of Vietnam. So this is clearly a way that Trump personally benefits from that and the Trump family. But that doesn't even begin to get to what's going on most recently with the auction to dine with President Trump and the idea that you can, again, create foreign influence peddling right there in the White House. They are creating vehicles for foreign influence peddling. The Times piece from the New York Times: when the bidding stops today, the top buyers of a Trump family crypto coin will win a tour of the White House. The sale of face-to-face access to President Trump using the Trump family's own cryptocurrency has done more than benefit him financially, though it's certainly done that. Trump announcing last month that leading buyers of his digital coin that the family is marketing would be rewarded with a private dinner with him at one of his golf courses, and that the very top bidders would win a tour of the White House. So that auction ends today, and there is this bipartisan criticism about there, and that, you know, there also are suspicious trading patterns around this meme coin and his stable coin. These are the coins, the digital currency that is involved in all of this. So crypto investors around the world have been expanding their holdings of this digital currency. It's called a meme coin. It's the dollar sign in capital letters. It says Trump. And that's usually a novelty investment. That's not the kind of thing that people invest in big numbers. But as you can imagine, crypto investors around the world are involved because Trump is hitting this coin so hard and promoting it in this way and involving a contest. So a lot of crypto investors are going, wow, the coin is definitely going to take off. So buyers in interviews and statements have said that they bought the coins or entered the dinner contest with the intention of securing an action by Trump to affect United States policy. This is where you begin to see, I'm buying the coin, I'm throwing all this money at Trump because I want to influence U.S. policy on something that I care about. So the meme coin's trading price, adding billions of dollars, at least on paper, to the value of this Trump family-owned digital currency. They've reeled in more than $1.3 million in fees. They take a cut every time the coins change hands. And a lot of large traders, sensing an opportunity to cash in, have moved quickly and sold their Trump holdings after they take the ride. So you're seeing all of this trading around this Trump digital currency, and a lot of it's being done on Trump's platform, this World Liberty, it's called. It's like the Charles Schwab of buying digital currency. So he is getting some backlash. I mean, you're hearing from Cynthia Loomis, the Republican of Wyoming, that it does give me pause, she said, because it complicates our work here. The optics are challenging. I mean, again, that's like, that masquerades as like major criticism when they just talk about, well, it kind of looks bad, when it actually is bad. So the aggressive effort by Trump and his partners to promote the dinner has also drawn scrutiny from former securities regulators. They say that Trump may be violating federal securities laws. Of course he is.
I have a question.
Let me just finish this point, because he wouldn't be targeted for investigation for violating the securities laws because he's curtailed crypto enforcement efforts. So SEC and Justice Department, they don't even have divisions that would investigate him, not to mention he is essentially immune from any kind of prosecution. Now, go ahead.
Where does the money does the money go to? If they're raising money for what? I mean, I guess they're looking at who buys the most crypto, so the money's all like involved in the crypto, or is there some type of money that people are paying in order to get into the dinner as well? Does that fundraising go somewhere? Does it benefit America? Does it benefit the Trump Foundation? Like,
how quaint that you would think in terms of benefiting America.
I guess I want to know, where's the money? Whose money is it?
Well, it's Trump and the Trump family's money. They are buying, you understand, the rest of the world is buying these digital currencies, okay, a digital currency. So that digital currency is owned by Trump and the Trump family.
Right,
and it's traded there. You can acquire it on their platform. So they are double dipping. They're getting whatever, a piece of every transaction. And the coin itself is owned by the Trump family. So it's kind of like saying, I don't understand, when the Saudi Arabians and the government of Saudi Arabia buys floors in the Trump resorts and they never go there, does the U.S. government get some of that money? Or no, that's the Trump family. They own it. Think of these digital currencies as the Trump hotels, just another vehicle by which money can be funneled into the administration. And then you're right in your question when you say, I don't get it. I mean, so the top investors in this coin, they're going to have a chance to win this? Yeah, exactly. The dinner is auctioned off. So the top investors in this coin, those investors who put the most money in this digital currency, the most money in the Trump family pockets, they'll have access to Donald Trump and they'll be eligible to win the dinner.
So then you could say that Donald Trump is using the office of the presidency to promote his personal coin, meme coin.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to make sure I understand.
No, you can say it. I'm laughing because, of course. I mean, that's exactly what it is. You just need. Did I send you a piece of video? I feel like Chris Murphy pushed back on. I think he was pushing back on the Qatari thing mostly. But what's happened is the Qatari jet thing has a bit nudged out of the headlines what is an ongoing grift on the part of the Trump family and Donald Trump. He started selling this Trump meme coin 3 days before he was inaugurated, and then the coin just took off. So now he's propping it up again.
So he's got his hand out to the crypto people. He's got his hand out to the Qataris for an Air Force jet. Who isn't paying the president? Whose hand is he not having his hand out to? Like, who does he not want money from?
Well,
He'll take it from anyone, no matter what.
He doesn't even have to put his hand out. That's the thing. I mean, it's just understood. The efforts to prop the coin's value up have gone on since the inauguration. A website tied to the coin announced last month that the top 220 buyers would be invited to a gala dinner with Trump, and the top 25 would win access to a, quote, private VIP reception with Trump, as well as a White House tour. The auction's been playing out for nearly a month with an arcade-like leaderboard on the website so that tracks the rankings so crypto investors can game out how much they'd have to buy to win tickets before the contest closes. It all closes today, which is kind of why I was talking about it. But most people don't win on this investment, but there are a handful that have made a bunch of money. 764,000 buyers have lost money on the Trump coin as it's dropped precipitously. I mean, that's the way these meme coins are. They're not investments. But investors who bought the coin quickly when it launched, then sold it to less sophisticated buyers, they saw huge amounts of money accrue to them. 58 investors who bought the coin each earned at least $10 million apiece. Most of the coin's buyers are impossible to identify, and that is the magic of crypto. It was mentioned by Anthony Davis. The reality is, in the crypto world, it's all, in a way, dark money. You can't track
That's really
any
scary.
of it.
So basically, then we have no idea who we're inviting to the White House for dinner.
That's
Could be
exactly, well,
Could be the biggest spy in the world. Could be the biggest, human smuggler in the world. We have no idea who would be the top investor and who's coming for dinner.
and you're right about that on one level, although maybe the identities are, now the White House logs are, good luck trying to find any kind of real accounting of who's come and gone from the White House.
Mhm.
But I also think you point to the importance of some cop on the beat when it comes to crypto. And as I mentioned, they've just cored out all the, at the SEC and the Justice Department, all the cops on the beat. There's really no one overlooking this world of crypto. And that's deliberate. That's not accidental. And crypto and dark money is the way that human trafficking and narcotics and these things that we want less of in the world, it's how they can all be paid. Their business, the marketplace exists in, if you will, a dark web, cryptocurrency filled world. And so it's scary. My dinner with the dictator, says is it Ivy Kaminsky. That's very good. Yeah. Anyway, that's the drill down on it. And I guess today is the last day that he's supporting the coin. And you're probably wondering who leads the leaderboards. Most of the buyers anonymous. Some either claim public credit for their trades or they were identified by journalists who looked into it. In Singapore, a crypto company called MemeCore went into second place on that Trump leaderboard with 1.4 million coins.
Wow.
That's $19.3 million. They might be famous people from the crypto industry, or it's a very, very good opportunity. So that is the world of crypto, and that's the way the Trump administration. Where can I buy Mark Thompson crypto? Thank you for finally answering and asking, I should say, a question that we should be asking. Amy B, $5 super chat. Thank you. I think we'd be helped by a coin. That's a Tony thing. Like if Tony doesn't cook up a, some kind of digital thing, then we don't get
Thanks,
it.
Tony.
We don't get it done around here.
Real careful with meme coins.
No.
Real careful. That's all I'm going to say.
And that's because why, Tony?
Exactly. Because a lot of times they do pump and dumps and stuff like that. People basically, yeah. So they basically get it to the audience to buy them up, and then they go, bye.
Right, and that's kind of what I was saying happened with the meme coin with the Trumps. I mean, it was a pump and dump. At least it suggested that might be.
Still going, though. Usually those go like for a few hours, and then they just disappear. So
well, I mean, you've got the president of the United States propping it up.
At least.
Doesn't hurt to have the president, propping it up. He is telethon Don, says Luis. His entire presidency is one big fundraiser for his favorite charity, himself.
Yeah. It's crazy. Luis is so right.
Yeah, Luis is so right. Deb Allen, thank you for writing to our ka-ching, ka-ching, spring ka-chinging. Deb Allen, $20 super sticker. Big shout out to Deb Allen. Wasn't the choreographer named Debbie Allen?
I was just thinking about that. Yeah, there's a famous actress and choreographer named Debbie Allen. Yeah,
this is the other Deb Allen.
Yeah.
The more important Deb Allen, as far as I'm concerned. That's right.
Maybe, perhaps it's the same one. We don't know.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. I never thought it. I don't know if that's.
I mean, this is a star-studded show, so one never knows who will turn up.
Wow.
Who is having that conversation?
Luis, a much larger picture, Gary D. This is Donald Trump who can't see beyond selling tons of branded crap and grifting free planes. Can't play 3D chess with a Sharpie. Yeah, this goes back to the conversation we were having with Gary Dietrich about the fact that there's a much larger picture here beyond just the Qatari plane. But Luis is basically saying, hey, dude, this is straight up what's going on. It's influence peddling. You don't need to look to a larger picture. But Felicia Rashad is the sister of Debbie Allen, says Inlays. Wow, great knowledge. Who knew? Wild. Very, very. I mean, it's these are, I think it's scary because that kind of access and that kind of pay to play for the president of the United States is just such a bad place for us to be. One of the aspects of American politics has been and I'm just going to put this in quotes because of course it's not, but the purity with which there is representation and the rule of law. And what we've begun to see, and we've seen it so quickly, is an undermining of the purity of the process with basically a pay-to-play presidency. Influence peddling, patronage of all sorts, even the tariffs are adjacent to all that. And rule of law is something that has begun to be threatened. And I'd suggest that the ignoring the Supreme Court order, the ignoring of other orders, this all hurts the American brand desperately, and it will take decades to build that brand back. So, but it's all part of that. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'm really glad this guy could respond to the call. I put it out to him early this morning because of everything going on in the skies above America. Newark Airport, we're seeing word from inside Newark Airport, even air traffic controllers who wish to remain quiet and anonymous, saying it's scary right now. We're overrun. But it's not just Newark. It's Atlanta. It's Chicago. It's other places around America where they're seeing extraordinary delays, and there are safety questions that are beginning to crop up as well. So get back to the call I made early this morning, and he responded to it. The guy who is one of the first people involved in launching Europe's discount airline EasyJet. It exploded in popularity, was a big success. How about it for Patrick Weil?
Hi, Mark. How are you today?
I'm well, and I'm so grateful that you could join us on short notice. And it'll just be a quick visit, but really concerned with something that a lot of Americans have anxiety about, and that's air travel. I mean, what is happening at the nation's airports and in the skies over America?
Well, a lot of people have misconceptions about air traffic control, so I'll kind of explain it a little bit to you to your viewers. There are three levels of air traffic control. One is the air traffic control tower, which we all know. That alone only handles about 5 miles in either direction of an airport. And then once you leave that 5-mile area, you go to something called RTEC, which is ARTCC, which is an air traffic control center that handles flights 50 miles from the airport. So in Newark's case, which is the big problem, is it's under control of Philadelphia, which is having its own problems with equipment. So that is where the problem lies in the Newark case. And then once you get further beyond that, it goes to an air traffic control high altitude center. So it's a very limited place where these problems are occurring, and it's in the 50-mile range facilities that are usually the problem. And they're
so when we hear, Patrick, that Newark is undermanned, I mean, just generically, not enough people there in that air traffic control world of Newark, you're saying that's only part of the issue, because the reality is that a lot of the air traffic controls actually taking place outside of their area of purview.
Yeah, basically, like here in LA, the air traffic control center is based in San Diego, believe it or not. It's not even in Los Angeles. So yeah, like you're seeing on the screen here, this is the actual Philadelphia Air Traffic Control Center, which is having the problem with the antiquated systems, which you can probably see on your screen. Now in Europe, they figured out that this was a better place to be served in the private sector as opposed to the public sector. So Europe's air traffic control system is unitized to one center, basically called Shandwick, which is in Ireland. And it handles basically most of the Western Europe air traffic control, and it does very well. It's very modern. They figured out that getting the government out of that was probably a better bet letting each individual government try to operate it. So that's kind of where I would like to see our system go, but I don't think it will be that case.
You'd like to see a more centralized kind of technology, and you'd like to see one central place handle most of the communications and aviation issues across the country, even in a country that's the size of America.
Right. Yeah, I think it'd be better served in the private sector. I think the private sector could probably do a better job than what we're seeing right now, which is could be a very bad situation for. And I was going to go to Newark this weekend coming up, but I've decided against it just because of all the issues going on.
And certainly they're looking at delays, and they're 2 and 3 hour delays on a regular basis. But the aging infrastructure seems as though that could be handled quickly. There was money actually earmarked to address this issue. It was earmarked by the Biden administration.
Right.
And it was in that big infrastructure bill, but Trump has rescinded that money. I don't know if there's a way to claw back the money, but it looks as though that may not happen.
I guess if it's allocated, I suppose they can probably go get it and get that. That's probably what they're going to use for upgrades. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd think.
Absolutely. I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And I'm wondering then about the hiring. So that's the infrastructure. That's the technical infrastructure from a technological standpoint. But what about the hiring? We're way down, apparently, in just the number of people it takes to man all of these different air traffic control centers.
Oh, it's immense. I mean, you can break it down to the smallest local airport to the LAX to the air traffic control center. And then even the bigger centers that handle the long range flights, that was in Palmdale, California. So there's three different facilities that handle just the flights coming in and out of LAX, for example. My goddaughter called me up the other day and she wanted to take up a career in being a pilot. And I said, well, you know what? You may be better off going to be an air traffic controller right now. You'll be better opportunities for you.
Yeah. It's a high pressure job though. I mean, it really is tough, isn't it? I mean, Patrick, I'm told that I don't have it in front of me, but there's an age cutoff because they're worried. The implied worry is that people older couldn't even take that kind of pressure, the demands of the job.
Yeah, the shifts typically on let's just say the 50-mile radius facility, the shifts are 2 hours at a time, and then there's then they are required to take a 30-minute break in between shifts, and they'll work, basically an 8-hour shift, but they'll be broken down with those 2-hour work shifts and then a 30-minute interval to decompress, I would like to say. Yeah.
I'm going to double back to something else in a second, but I wanted to get to Michael D. says, Mark, please have Patrick talk about traffic management before reaching approach control. I find it fascinating. Separating of SFO inbounds are designed hundreds of miles before reaching SFO. This is kind of what you're saying, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. That's exact. So NorCal is called the Northern California Air Traffic Control Center, which, again, they're seeing flights out probably a little bit beyond Nevada and approaching the West Coast. And then they're all basically sorted out either by speed or direction, moving airplanes around to sort of squinch them down into that approach for San Francisco will take, for instance. And then the 50-mile radius folks take it and they really squinch it down. And they slow the airplanes down or speed them up depending on what the situation is. And then the last 5 miles is the air traffic control tower, the actual physical tower you see at the airport. So yeah, it's an interesting process. I would love to, hopefully when my show gets green lighted, we'll be able to do a whole couple episodes about just that. So people understand the architecture of it, because it's to a layperson, it's very daunting to understand that whole process, but it's worked very well for many, many years. It's just the equipment needs to be upgraded, and that's a certainty. And I think maybe getting the government out of that might be the answer.
Yeah, I don't know. You and I part company on that. I think that this idea somehow that, I'm not on, just in general, I mean, on aviation, I yield to you all day, of course, but I just think there's kind of a mistaken notion that the private industry does everything better, and I don't know that that's the case. I mean, but maybe some kind of private-public partnership.
That's
Maybe
exactly
that's the
it.
solution.
Yeah, that's exactly. Oh, yeah, you need government oversight for sure. That's no doubt about that. I just think the private sector can probably better facilitate, upgrades, things like that, because it's on a per cost basis as opposed to a budget basis.
Tell me what you would advise us, those of us traveling, those of us who have planned travel. I see in the chat some people say I was planning travel, but now I've canceled it because of this. I mean, are the skies essentially safe, or would you avoid certain places? I mean, you just canceled your trip to Newark. Well, what are your? Is that because of the inconvenience associated with delays, or because of safety? Like you're really worried? Like, wow. I mean, I'm not so sure it's so safe to go to these places.
No, I think it's safe. I think again the inconvenience. I think the big problem is the airlines themselves overscheduling flights. That is a big problem. United has gone on this mission to try to be the biggest and best. And what happens is, in those cases, they overflow the airports that they use for hubs. In this case, if I was United, I'd move all their flights that they want to add on to DC. DC is also a hub for United. That's Dulles, not National. So they have lots of room, and they seem to be okay with their air traffic control system. But Newark is a tough place, and I'll tell you what. In the 90s, I used to run an airline called Kiwi International, which was based in Newark. And the problem with that airport is the runways are too close together. So what happens is if you get a heavy situation with weather or something like that, every flight gets delayed. It's just inevitable. So with this particular situation, I was going to go to New York City, actually, and I changed my destination to JFK just because it's a little easier to get in and out of JFK, even though it's harder on the ground side. But no, it's Newark just is a hub for United Airlines, and it's oversaturated with flights. That's my opinion.
Well, I'm going to look into what's happening to the money that was dedicated to upgrading the system. It was when Buttigieg was DOT director, and also Biden was president. And maybe you have probably more significant context than do I. But I'd love to know really where that stands, because I can't imagine that they just froze all of that infrastructure.
It's a mystery to me too. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
I have no idea where it went.
I mean, it's so critical.
It should have been spent, and it should have spent wisely. I don't know why it wasn't.
Cats and Jam says it's stressful enough without constantly worrying that you could lose radar at any time. That's crazy. Should have a separate backup or something, and there's too much in the airspace for these. This is true that the Newark going dark was like crazy, Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the 5 mile radius of the airport. It was that 50 mile coming into the airport where everything gets squeezed. So that is a major problem. There's no doubt about that whatsoever.
This is interesting. I don't know if this is right, but hang on a second. I'll get to that in a second. I'll get to that in a second. I heard the problem with radar at that airport was because the maintenance people were fired by Musk and Trump, says Karen Cooper. Maybe that's true.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's true or not. Michael D says, Patrick, when IFR, what is that?
Instrument flight rules.
Okay, influence flight rules. This is getting a little esoteric, but all right, this is my last one here. These one, Patrick, when IFR conditions exist at SFO, the airport in San Francisco, are not landings restricted to just one runway, and doesn't that cause a shutdown? No.
It causes a slowdown, doesn't cause a shutdown. All airports are subject to weather. I mean, LAX can go down. The only reason I refer to LAX is I'm very familiar with it. So, yeah, I mean, we have something called the dark hole out there. After midnight, all airplanes are landing and departing on the same runway. So what it means is that the air traffic control has to allow a departure and then let the arrival come back the opposite direction, which puts airplanes in head-on situations on that particular after midnight, especially. Jeez. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's for noise abatement. It's
sure, of course, yeah. I love that we put the bat beam up and you responded. Thank you, Patrick. So good to see you. Want to hear?
Can you talk about Air Force One?
What do you? I mean, this Qatari thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm sure they want favors. Obviously,
right.
That's what it's supposed to look like. That's the one that they wanted to. That the government had, and this is during Trump's first term. He was made a deal to get these two 747-8s, which were destined to fly for Transaero, which was a Russian airline, but it went out of business. And these two airplanes have never, I mean, they've flown their test flights, but they've never been, flown in airline service. And I don't know what happened to that deal, to tell you the truth. I don't know why this. And then this Qatar airplane you see here is a VIP type of configuration with, everything that Air Force One would need. And when I heard about that, I found that was very interesting. I don't know why they would want to donate that to the U.S. government, but I'm sure it's for some kind of favoritism, I would think.
Yeah, you would imagine. I mean, they've never done it before. And of course, it could be wildly illegal, but that was in the old days. Now nothing's wildly illegal.
True.
The basics of that plane, you're saying, kind of conform to what the old Air Force One was?
Yeah, they're really, really similar, other than the electronic warfare type things they have on board. They have a lot of secret stuff that I don't even know about, but they that goes up in the top deck up there, and that's probably what that would be the only sort of reconfiguration I would think would be necessary.
Yeah, and one has to think that they'll have to go over it to make sure, as you say, that things get reconfigured for American technologies and to make sure that there's no existing kind of embedded technology that could compromise from a national security standpoint. Sure. There's a lot going on there. But
yeah. I mean, the U.S. military is very good at configuring these airplanes. That's for sure. They are very good at that. But again, I'm sort of at a loss of what the why is as opposed to the how.
Well, I mean, in this, again, we have this myth of American exceptionalism. How come we can't build our own Air Force One? I mean, after so long, I mean, as you say, money's been earmarked for it. Trump drew up new blueprints for it or whatever, okayed new plans.
Yeah.
And yet, I don't know, it looks like we're going to be riding on the Qatari ride for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's Boeing's issue, and Boeing's got a lot of issues as it is, as we both know. I mean, they're getting a little better at it, and they sold a few more planes lately, but it's going to take them some time to get back into where they used to be.
Thanks again for being here, my friend. Want to hear about your TV show next time? I hope there'll be good news. That's
we did. We had a great meeting with a very significant celebrity recently, and he's all on board. So
that's what it takes to sell a show now. You do have that. You need that attachment. So good stuff, Patrick.
He's very well known in the aviation industry, so we're looking forward to getting him on contract.
I love it. Good luck and stay in touch. Talk soon. Patrick Weil, everybody. Bravo. Great stuff, man. He's really, really cool.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, he knows his stuff.
We forgot to ask him if you could do the voiceover for his next documentary.
I don't.
You've got to be proactive on these things. You have to jump in and say, you know what?
I'm sure that he would.
I've got the voice. You've got the documentary. Let's merge.
Yeah. Kim feels that that I neglected an opportunity, Patrick, to bust you.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you need a narrator, you need a voiceover person. Yeah.
Well, I'll let you know right away.
Oh, that sounds positive.
Yeah, sorry about that. All right. Don't call us, we'll call you is basically what he said.
Answer.
Yeah, that didn't seem like he was super on board with the idea. But nonetheless, I have a minute or two. I want to do some Law and Disorder, but I'm running so late now.
That's never stopped you before. Why
it has not. It has not, and it won't this time either.
That's what I figured.
Yeah. I mean, I like to give the audience something every day, a little extra something. In addition to the other extras, let's do some Law and Disorder.
In the criminal justice system, the people,
pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care,
are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law. You're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
A 19-year-old Bay Area guy accused of attempted kidnapping with multiple women, pleading no contest. Told authorities he was just pranking them.
What?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
What?
Right. He was initially charged with 5 counts of attempted kidnapping, 1 count of assault, mean, it was really pretty brutal. But in his plea agreement this week, he pleaded no contest to 2 of the kidnapping charges, now facing up to 4 years and 10 months in custody, 3 years of parole, and 2 fines up to $10,000 each.
Mm-hmm.
The man started the
not a funny joke.
No,
Mm-mm.
I don't see the humor.
No.
It was a woman and her 4-year-old standing outside of their home. He parked his car outside the home. It's in San Mateo, which is just south of San Francisco by a bit on the peninsula. He allegedly grabbed her arm, tried to force her to go with him. This is while she's standing there with her 4-year-old. She screamed, fought back. He ran back to his car and left. Anyway, he did some version of this multiple times, told authorities it was just a prank, all a misunderstanding.
Mm-hmm.
But looks as though he is going to be paying a fine and going away for at least what looks like close to 5 years. A road rage victim addresses his killer in court through AI. A clip of Chris Pelkey, who died in 2021, says, I believe in forgiveness through this AI offering that was played in court.
Wow.
It's incredible.
How did they know what he would say? His family gave the message?
I guess the family is the one that crafted the message. He was killed in a road rage shooting in Chandler, Arizona in 2021. 3.5 years later, he appears in an Arizona court and addresses his killer through AI.
Weird.
He said this, quote, to Gabriel Horcasitas, the man who shot me, it is a shame we encountered each other that day in those circumstances. In another life, we probably could have been friends. I believe in forgiveness and a God who forgives. I always have, and I still do. He was 37 years old, devoutly religious, as you could kind of tell from his remarks, even in the AI form. He was an Army combat vet. And he was shot at a red light after he got out of his car and walked back toward the other guy's car.
Whoa.
Yeah. Quite extraordinary. And the family says, we just kept coming back to what would Chris say if he were alive?
Yeah.
And there it is. Bizarre kind of sign of the times.
Mm-hmm.
And Meta losing a case. You might, oh, yeah. Not a lot of Meta fans here. Meta, the platforms won a $168 million verdict against the Israeli surveillance firm NSO. That was a 6-year court case between Meta, the U.S.'s biggest social networking platform, and the world's best-known spyware company. The Meta people won. It was the spyware company that lost this case. I see. So Meta and this NSO, they are huge, and they are in everything. And apparently, Meta won a December ruling against them because they apparently exploited a bug in the messaging service WhatsApp, and they used that bug to plant spyware on users' phones.
Rude.
So the jury in California ruling that NSO, again, not Meta, the Meta owns WhatsApp. That's what this is about.
Mm-hmm.
That NSO owed Meta about $500,000 in compensatory damages and a $167 million ruling in punitive damages. And Meta said today's verdict in the WhatsApp case is an important step forward for privacy and security as the first victory against development and use of illegal spyware that threatens the safety and privacy of everyone. NSO said they're going to carefully examine the verdict's details and pursue appropriate legal remedies. Yeah, kind of a different rap out of that world. And finally, it's the viral video that you've seen. We saved it to the very end of the show. Kim said, lead with it, go with it, do it.
No.
I said, gosh, it's a guy crapping on somebody's, and it was Kim said,
Don't
do
lead
it.
with
Kim,
the
how are you?
pooper. No, save the pooper for the end.
A couple of Los Angeles families waking up to unpleasant Mother's Day deliveries on Sunday. You know what I'm talking about? A pair of Californians submitting videos showing a delivery driver for Amazon pulling down her shorts and relieving herself in the front yards of two different Woodland Hills homes. Woodland Hills in Southern California, just outside of L.A.
Who does that?
Somebody who has to go to the bathroom real badly, or somebody who's really angry.
Find a Starbucks.
In the first video, the woman is shown climbing the homeowner's front porch stairs on Sunday, delivering a package on Mother's Day. The home security footage showed what appeared to be completely normal occurrences until the driver started walking away from the porch and pulling up her pants. On the nearby porch, this is all stuff from security video, of course. On the nearby porch, there was what appeared to be human poop.
Gross.
The ground in front of that fecal matter appeared to be wet from an unknown substance as well. They think that she both pooed and peed. The apparently outside the property, there was a dirty paper towel left on the ground, and all of this stuff seems related. After seeing that video on television, another family submitted a video showing what appears to be the same Amazon delivery woman entering through their wooden gate and delivering a package, then dropping her shorts there and urinating on the brick walkway.
Is it the same lady?
It looks to be the same person. When asked for a statement, Amazon said, "We're deeply disturbed by the unacceptable behavior of this delivery driver, apologized to the customers involved. We immediately identified the driver, and they're no longer delivering on behalf of Amazon." And that is,
Sayonara, sucker.
Yeah, that's right. It's pretty much a good
day, sir.
That's right. No
like
more
she-
pooping or peeing.
It's like she picked the houses with the Ring cameras and did it on purpose.
I know, it's weird. I mean, it is like the front. It's weird because if you were trying to conceal that action or activity, you'd go around the side, you'd look. There are a lot of places along her route that she could have done it, but she just let it rip. Serial pooper, says Obi-Wan. That's exactly right. She's a serial pooper. And what do? Well, you don't keep them in your employ.
Nope.
And that's Law and Disorder for today.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on the Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
I love it. Can't get enough of it. Sadly, we must wrap up. Before I do wrap up, I want to thank everybody who has contributed and helped us through the Spring Ka-Ching fundraise that's going on. I love this show. And the chatter says Vicky in Sausalito with a $20 super chat.
Big shout out,
Vicky. Thank you so much. And we also, I was just going to share with you, a couple of people did something else. They've contacted me and they're sending checks, which is really kind of cool, just to help us along the way. And I will note those names to Tony, so we'll be able to add them to our scroll. And I also wanted to note that several people took their regular Patreon contributions, Kim, and they augmented it. In other words, they might be $20 a month they send us. They made it $30 a month, this kind of thing. Jane O is one of those people, from $10 a month to $20 a month on Patreon. So that really helps. And there are a bunch more. I will recognize them. And lastly, people reaching out to me about my sweet Charlie, who is having a rough time. As you know, we had to put down our sweet, adorable youngest cat of the three that I got from the shelter, Moki. And it was heartbreaking and difficult. And I think now we're looking at Charlie, who's struggling with the loss of this other cat and his own physical problems, which are honestly pretty substantial. But he's still alive, is what I wanted to say. Because some of us said, I'm so sorry about Charlie, and the reality is Charlie is still with us. So we're
weird to think that cats feel loss, that cats know that their other cat mate has gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a rather human-like quality to feel a loss, to be sad over the absence of another creature. And it's interesting. I mean, it's sad and also interesting to me that cats feel that too.
Well, this goes to something that I fundamentally believe, and I think is a really important thing to keep in mind, and that is all animals have emotion. All animals. We think, oh, isn't it, and I can't blame us for thinking it. I mean, we're evolved, and our thinking is, and our thoughts are evolved, and we understand the concept of death and all this kind of thing. Animals are evolved also. Mm-hmm. I get it. They don't speak. But apart from that, they may be far more evolved than we are and have a greater connection to loss than we have. In fact, cows, the bond between the mother cow and the offspring, that may be more significant than the human bond. Take that in for a second.
Yeah.
And just because they don't speak, we may lose that plot, but it's real. That's why when you have to remove calves from the mother for dairy, because that milk is for the calf, it is so heartbreaking, because the mother feels that loss maybe even more profoundly than human loss. So that's the way you get milk. You get it from dairy cows who have been impregnated. They produce milk, and then the calf is born and taken away from the mother right away in the first 24 hours, typically. It might be just hours. And then she is hooked up to these machines, and they milk her. And she's milked unrelentingly. The life of a dairy cow is really tough.
I'm reminded also about orcas and how, if they take the baby orca away, the mother never really gets over it.
No, there's a documented case of an orca actually taking their own life out of that profound sense of loss, and elephants, etc. But throughout the animal kingdom, they feel attachment, loss. You'll note when you pay attention to one dog, you don't pay attention to the other dog comes up. I mean, there's a quality of jealousy or whatever you want to call it. We ascribe certain, labels to it, but the reality is they are evolved. And so my heart breaks for them the way they feel the heartbreak themselves. So anyway, I love that we could end with a sermon, everybody. It was a great
What?
I know. I got
Thompson, party of four.
I thank you. I have to catch my lunch. It's very, very good.
This is no picnic, no summer camp.
No, it's not. You're gonna get a little truth. The truth.
You just don't get it, do you?
I don't.
You don't?
I don't. I tried to go up on something, then Kim mentioned the thing, but it's my fault because I mentioned the thing, the email. Anyway,
That's pure speculation.
All right. What is it, Tony?
They're the poll results.
Trump gets a Boeing 747 gift from Qatar. What is going on? Here are the results. Reeks of corruption gets 68%, influence petting 28%, Bond movie plot 6%, and a, quote, gift 4%. Reeks of corruption wins the day. All right. May you all get planes in your Christmas stocking.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Kim's After Party Live is next. We are out of time. David K. Johnston tomorrow. Please join us. Until then, bye-bye.